Welcome to Voices for Change 2.0, the only podcast that focuses on mental health while mixing in movies, music, books, sports, and pop culture. Here are your hosts, Rebecca and Joe Lombardo.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Voices for Change 2.0.
Yeah.
We are so glad to have you with us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for tuning in with us this morning on is this really the last Saturday of May already? Wow. Memorial Day weekend. It's crazy. We hope you guys have a wonderful Memorial Day.
Those of you in the U.S.
In the United States, yeah. We have to say that because our guest, when we bring her in, will be joining us from not the United States. She's actually from the UK, but we'll get into that in a minute. In the meantime, witty banter.
Yeah, witty banter. I didn't even, usually I'll kind of formulate a plan in my mind about what exactly we're going to talk about or whatever. But lately my brain has just been like a sieve. Just anything that goes in, it just comes out and just is a puddle on the floor. I just can't think straight lately.
Ooh, that sounds gross.
Yeah, thanks.
It's like goo. Your brain is goo.
Yes, my brain is goo. That's a good way to put it.
There's for those of you that are of the older persuasion, such as us, and remember wonderful movie watching fare such as Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah, I don't remember that. So
there is a scene at the end with this little foreigner dude who had previously been possessed, and the possession is over, and he's covered in stuff, and I'll never forget him walking around going, Why would I make drippings with goo? And it just always stuck with me whenever anybody got any type of gooey stuff on them.
Well, thank you for that, honey. That really helped forward our interview today.
Well, it's witty banter.
Yeah, witty banter. Okay.
So
today we are talking with someone that I believe I scheduled, 2 or 3 months ago to be on today. I was really excited to have her. She was the mastermind pretty much behind the Ask Me I'm Bipolar movement on Twitter. It was hashtag Ask Me I'm Bipolar, I believe. And she's branching out and making it an even bigger deal than it originally was, and she's done a lot of really great work. She's a fantastic advocate, never has a mean word to say about anybody, is always really kind, and we're just really grateful to have her visit us as much as she can visit us.
Yeah.
Over here from where she's at, but
in the UK, from Manchester, if you will.
Yep.
So go Man U.
So please welcome to the show, Kamala Upia. Did I say that right?
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. All right, well, we're just going to call her
Apaya.
I apologize.
I got you, Cam. Don't worry.
Yeah, I'll just say Cam from now on to avoid getting in trouble.
That's fine.
Yep. It's funny because when you told us your name before we started the show, I actually, I heard it. I know what you said, but I heard it as papaya, so that's how I'm kind of...
Like the fruit.
Yeah, exactly. So, that way I've got it right, and I'm saying it right, and, yeah.
So anyway...
You've already made me happy today talking about ectoplasm on Ghostbusters. That was amazing.
See, my witty banter was relevant.
It was, yes, honey. It was wittier than witty.
Yes, it was. I am truly witty today.
Yes, you are. So we'd like to just jump right into our questions if you're ready for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so the first question that we ask virtually every guest that comes on, it's kind of become our signature thing, and that is, where does your mental health journey begin?
Wow, that's a deep question in a way. Mental health is everything for me. It's my whole life. Obviously, I am not only bipolar, I'm also on the autistic spectrum. So I've kind of always had something there one way or another. I think
okay.
I first knew about something in my life probably around age 3. My parents said, something's not quite right there. I was more on the autism side, I'm going to guess. By the time I was 16, I got misdiagnosed multiple times, depression, BPD, lots of things, social anxieties, which I do have, but it's not specifically just anxiety. It took me till age 30 to get my bipolar diagnosis. And then when I went into the psychiatrist at the time, I just remember sort of having this really sort of impending doom feeling. And they were telling me, it's bipolar disorder, and people with bipolar disorder struggle with this and that and the other. And then I did the usual thing that people my age do, and I went and Googled it. And from that, I found so many things telling me, you're never going to have a relationship, you'll never get married, you'll never hold a job down, you'll never finish your degree. And it felt like the end of the world for me. And me being the stubborn person that I am, just went, no. I was like, I'm not having this. So I created Ask Me I'm Bipolar. And the whole point of that was to kind of say, actually, I'm going to do all these things. I dare you to tell me I can't.
Wow.
That's solid.
Mm-hmm.
That is a solid, just.
It's one time my stubbornness has actually paid off.
Yeah, it's a force of will. That's the word I was trying to think of, was force. But yeah, it's just a solid force of will. It's like, you're not going to overcome me. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a lot of us that, I don't like to try to speak for other people, but I know from my personal experience, I would love to have been the type of person who could have forged ahead like you did and just said, this isn't going to stop me now. But it is what it is. I can't change it now, but I'm happy for you that you were able to,
it wasn't instantaneous. There was that period sort of, I'd like to say acceptance, but I didn't accept it very well to start with. And I did have that kind of whole, disorientated, who am I? Am I my diagnosis? Sort of, I think the best way to describe it is all of a sudden I wasn't sure who was in control, me or the bipolar. Right. And that was a really chaotic feeling. That was a really kind of out of control. Who am I? What am I doing here? Is this the end of my life kind of thing? And it was really dark times for a while. It really was.
Yeah, some people have said that getting a diagnosis after a certain period of time of struggling is a huge relief, because at least they have an answer now.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know if that's the way it went for you. If you kind of struggled with all the other different symptoms that you were experiencing, and then when somebody finally sat you down and told you what it was, maybe you were able to kind of process it a little bit and say, this makes sense.
Yeah, I think if I had never have known what it was, I'd have just continued going down a very chaotic path. But finally finding out what it was, it wasn't even that much for myself. It was also for the people around me, my loved ones, my family, for them to know that I'm not just making this up and there's something actually wrong. I think that made a massive difference to how people sort of interacted with me, and sort of, I don't want to say allowances that they gave me, but sort of how they accepted what I can and can't do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I don't like using this word, but there isn't really another one that I can think of at the moment, because my brain is
also gush.
Is goo.
Ectoplasm.
But it's almost like it legitimizes things. It's like, well, this is why I'm this way. I have this particular diagnosis. Where people go, oh, well, okay, then that explains it.
That's one way. That's
one way. Yeah.
It's not the only way.
It's not the only way, but and the thing is it shouldn't be that way of, oh, well, you got this wrong with you. Well, no, love me and accept me regardless. This is what's going on with me, but
it's not me.
It's not me. I have
exactly.
This. It's like if you have cancer. Well, I have cancer. I'm not cancer. Unless
that is, you've hit the nail on the head there, and that was the thing that really kind of stood out for me. And all of a sudden, it was like, I am bipolar, and I'm like, no, I'm not. I am a person who has my own wants, needs, values, what I think is right and wrong, my own direction in life. And yes, it's influenced by the bipolar and, of course, to some degree by the autism, but it's not the be all and end all of who I am. And it really bothered me that so many people were just like, oh, well, you're bipolar, so this means this. This means you must be doing this, or you must think this, or you will act like this. And I'm like, that's not true.
No. Yeah, that's exactly it. It's a double-edged sword having the diagnosis, because then once while it's great that now people are also assigning whatever preconceived notions they have about it, and it's like, well, no, it's not a hamburger, it's not like going to it's not like going to Burger King and getting a Whopper. It doesn't matter where in the world you go to Burger King, you're going to get a Whopper, and it's what's on that Whopper, with the meat and the lettuce and the tomato and the onion. But having a diagnosis like that isn't a be all end all. You're not a Whopper. You
also get those people that sort of try and put everything that's emotional in general down to mental health. I did have that at the time with someone I was seeing, and that was quite disheartening. Well, very disheartening, to be honest, because it was like suddenly my feelings and my emotions are not allowed. They're not valid anymore because it's the bipolar. It's not me. And that was quite hard to come to terms with.
And then there's a whole other side to it as well that I have struggled with myself, and that's when you start to feel okay or you're having a good period of time. There's always somebody out there that wants to call you out for, faking whatever is actually wrong with you just because you're doing okay right now.
Oh, absolutely. I've actually seen that from my YouTube channel with the comments. So things I talk about at my worst most of the time. I've got on my Patreon, I do have videos of me in sort of like more candid sense. But on my actual YouTube channel, they are recorded and edited, and I try to make it as professional as I can. And then people have commented going, well, you don't do this, therefore you're not bipolar. You don't seem to be in a crisis, therefore you're not bipolar. And I'm like, it doesn't quite work like that.
That's exactly the same thing I got when I put out my book. Repeatedly, I got people saying that, well, that's not how bipolar works for you. It works for me. I don't think you have it.
Yeah.
And I got that many times, and it frustrates me to no end.
Oh, it's ridiculous. I mean, like, just from a basic scientific level, no two humans are exactly the same. Your history is not exactly the same. Your psychology, your emotions, any trauma that you've experienced, what shaped you as a person is going to be very different, which means it will manifest differently in different people.
Exactly. And I mean, that goes back to, the title of Beck's book. It's not your journey, and it's not. It was her journey, period. And it was an example of what she went through. And she states very clearly in her book, I went through this. Your experience is most likely going to be different. And everybody's, again, we're not all Whoppers. It's we all are going to go through and experience different things with these illnesses.
Absolutely.
Your experience is different from Rebecca's, is different from anybody else that we've had on the show. It's different from mine. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, there's also the side of it of when you are writing a blog or you're writing a book or you're doing a video or a podcast, that is an hour or a set period of time in your life that you're writing about. It's not always. People don't see what you are like all the time. And they're making a snap judgment off, in my videos, for example, it could be 5 minutes. And they're going, oh, well, this 5-minute snapshot of your life means you're not bipolar. I'm like, really?
Yeah. It's like, oh, you're so insightful. Thank you. And then one other thing that Beck didn't mention this, but I know it's in her thought process, is you have those days or hours or even minutes where you feel good, things are going well, you feel a little better, and you take that second to enjoy it, and then you feel guilty because you're enjoying it, because everybody else is coming at you like, well, no, you don't have bipolar, or you're not bipolar because you feel fine, and blah, blah, blah,
That's
and
one
it's
of the
ridiculous.
reasons I've had to take myself off a lot of sort of social media forums or groups and things like that, because I could read them and it was just a barrage of negativity on a daily basis. And even when I'm feeling okay, I'm looking at everybody telling me how terrible life is, and I'm thinking, oh, am I right? Am I lying? Is this, is something wrong with me now because I'm feeling better than everybody else? Like, it's just, you've got to be really careful with things like that. It is such an individual thing. Mental health is individual, and I would love people to understand that, because the amount of times people have said to me, if you're bipolar, you must do this. I mean, I know that the criteria for it is in the DSM, and it's a checklist pretty much that says, if you meet all this criteria, then you will be diagnosed as bipolar. But in reality, we are all individual humans, and we will be very different from each other in how we show that sort of the downsides and the upsides.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and along those same lines, what do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions that face someone with your illness? Well, our illness.
Oh, my favorite one is the I'm emotionally erratic, or I can't make a decision. Or, I mean, I did a post once, and it was a bit of a sort of flippant post, but like with the Katy Perry song and things like that, with the, you must be bipolar because you can't make your mind up. I'm like, I make my mind up very well, thank you very much. I know exactly what I want to do. I know exactly where I'm going and how to get there. I just can't I don't have the energy, and I don't have the motivation some days to get where I need to be. It's I don't know if you've read the spoon theory. It was a blog post. I can't remember the name of the woman. Oh, that's terrible. I was talking about it the other day. She wrote, it was about fibromyalgia and mental health, and she was basically saying most people have unlimited spoons. But then if you have a mental health problem or some of the physical health problems or an invisible illness in general, you get given a set amount of spoons. So in one day, I might be able to complete 5 tasks, but no more than 5. And other people are like, well, you should be able to do this, and a video, and then carry on with this. And I just can't do it. I just can't do it. But it's got nothing to do with whether I can make my mind up about something. It's got nothing to do with my emotions are invalid. It's got nothing to do with being completely emotionally erratic, unless I was off my medication and not looking after myself. I think probably I'm going to make that more succinct. I'm going to say my first answer to that is people thinking I can't make my mind up. The second answer to that is people thinking that somebody who is bipolar, who is medicated and looking after themselves, has absolutely no emotional control.
Yeah. Yeah, those are both pretty solid.
Yeah.
I think anybody that it does happen where you lose emotional control. I'm not saying that it doesn't. I think before you're diagnosed, before you realize what you're dealing with, before you put all your techniques and mechanisms in place to keep you well, then yes, it can happen. It is not a 24/7 thing, and it does tailor off when you are taking your medication or looking after yourself properly.
Yeah. Exactly.
Definitely. Go ahead, Ray. You can ask the next one. I've been kind of dominating the conversation here.
Oh, thanks, baby. So, talk with us about Ask Me I'm Bipolar and some of the other new projects that you're currently working on.
Well, Ask Me I'm Bipolar was a strange one. So I obviously got that diagnosis. I went through a kind of really sort of dark time where I couldn't accept it. And I was working away. I was a freelance trainer at the time. So I was teaching sort of vocational classes around the UK. And I was in Carlisle, which is up north from where I am, in a hotel room. And I was sat there on the bed, and I was just feeling really sorry for myself. And it just kind of came to me in my head. And it was like, what if I created a YouTube channel and called it Ask Me I'm Bipolar, and then I could prove that I could do these things? And it literally just hit me like that. It wasn't something that I spent ages working out how to do. It just came to me in my head, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to do that. And I recorded my first episode in that hotel room, which was the difference between mania and hypermania. And I was so scared. Oh, God, it was a couple of years ago now. To be fair, I've not released any videos recently because I've had a little bit of dip with my mental health due to a couple of life incidents happening that I had no control over. But I'm definitely, I'll be back on it in next month. I'll be back out releasing more videos. But yeah, I was so scared. I don't think I've ever been that scared in my life. I remember sitting on the bed, ringing my best friend and crying on the phone and just being like, what have I done? I've just put this video on YouTube and everyone can see it.
Yeah.
But you know what? That takes just strength and courage of conviction to do, and good on you for doing it, really. And look where it's gotten you since then. And I always say, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with that first step, and that was your first step. So as they say over there, well done you.
It was actually the best thing I've ever done, if I'm honest. Not only has it given me the opportunity to speak to other people, speak to like people in the mental health community that I probably never have been able to speak to before, but it actually also got me the job that I'm currently doing because it was based on my ability to edit videos. So my day job currently, I went to the interview and I said, and I didn't put on the application form that I had any mental health because I prefer to talk about it in person. So I told the interviewer, I have bipolar disorder, or I live with bipolar disorder, I prefer to say, and then, but I have this YouTube channel and I do this and that, and we spent half the interview looking through my videos, and then I was hired.
Wow, that's awesome. That's really cool. It speaks to a lot of things. It speaks to your talent, with video editing. It speaks to your talent with the subject matter, everything. That's really, really cool.
Yeah, very cool.
Just for a little background for you, I 20 some odd years ago went to broadcasting school and learned video editing and learned radio and all this other stuff, and never got to do anything job-wise with the video editing side of things. And it's always been something that kind of bummed me out, but I have always been fascinated by it and always thought it was really, really cool. And I'm always watching behind the scenes how they did this and that in movies and whatnot. So, good job.
So I know that you mentioned in your pre-interview that there was a couple of more ask me, I'm fill in the blank kind of things that you've got coming up. So you want to talk about those a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I started with the Ask Me I'm Bipolar stuff, I didn't actually think it would get as popular as it did. That was kind of like a surprise to me. I suddenly started getting lots of messages from people. I did one video with my mother, which was really popular. And loads of people started messaging me and just being like, oh my God, your mum's so, honest and brave, and it's really good that you put this out there. And I was really, really taken aback by it. And I was like, wow, people are engaging with this content. And I've had one or two people that have said to me things like, oh, your videos really helped me sort of explain my mental health to my family. And I thought, that's all I wanted. All I wanted was one person to benefit from it, and it was worth it. So I collaborated then with my best friend, Danielle Beck. She is Geek Dogs and Did on YouTube, and she lives with dissociative identity disorder, so multiple personalities. So we started to create a podcast called One of Us. We've done about 5 or 6 episodes on there now, and we're just basically having a chat about things. It's not anything deadly serious. It's more, a casual environment, whereas my Ask Me videos, I try and sort of keep the science in there and back up everything I'm saying with references and the studies that I've found that information out from. So she wanted to kind of like follow the format and do some videos with me about dissociative identity disorder. So we've decided that we started filming those. They're not out at the moment, but they hopefully will be soon. And then I thought about it and I thought, okay, well, I'm also autistic and my life is heavily influenced by the autism as well. So maybe I'll do another stream called Ask Me I'm Autistic. And then another friend of mine who's also a sort of professional female, she was like, well, I've got borderline personality disorder. Can I host some of it? And I was like, oh, okay. So it's kind of turned into a collective thing now. But to me, that's amazing because I didn't know any of this was going to happen. It just kind of snowballed, but it's fantastic. If we can help people by just talking about life and showing people that, yes, you can have a career. Yes, you can have, loving relationships. Yes, you can do this. That is what it's all about. For me, it's just showing that, I don't know, we're fine. We're okay. We,
yeah,
we
you
live
guys,
with things, but we're good.
You guys should really start a website to get information out to more people about what it is that you're all individually speaking about. Have a feed to each one of your blogs and just talk a little bit about, maybe even do like a day-to-day, this is where I'm at kind of thing, after the vlog or something like that, something website related that could help you get even more interest, especially with your newer
content
that's coming out. That would be great.
Yeah, plus it would organize the content all in one spot.
Yeah.
Well, actually, a web designer reached out to me and was just like, I can make you a website because I like the content, and I live with my own mental health stuff, and we do have a website that is now called, because obviously I've got askmeimbipolar.com, but we've got askmemh, as in askmementalhealth.com, and that is currently under the works to be the sort of central hub of everything. But it's still it's got the basic link on there to Ask Me I'm Bipolar at the moment, but it's currently being created in the background.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
It's an exclusive on our show.
Yep.
We're talking about it. That's great. I love the whole concept of that. That you've got these different people in your life that want to hop on board and tell their particular stories and things and where they're coming from on their journey, and that's just so cool. It's inspiring,
It is very.
That's kind of what we were going for. I mean, when we first got together and we did the podcast, it was just fun. The podcast part was just fun. And we sat there one day and we were like, actually, the host that I have so far, we've got 3 females, 3 strong, independent women is what I'd like to say, all with careers, 1 with their own business, 2 with professional careers, 2 in solid relationships. Unfortunately, I'm not quite there yet, but I'm working on it. But, yes, we all have these issues, but we kind of are still achieving everything we want to achieve. I'm currently doing my master's in psychology. Danny's just done, she's a clinical animal behaviorist, so she's looking at doing a psychotherapy on the side of that as well. So she's already got 1 master's and is looking at doing another one. And I just thought, actually, I just want to show people that mental health doesn't mean you have to stop. It just means that it's an obstacle course instead of a straight run.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Yeah, very well said. And on that note, we do have to take a little break here. So we will catch you on the other side of Where Are You Going to Run To Now by Matt Van Fossen.
Sun coming up, West Virginia highway, just couldn't sleep in the bed that you made. Where you gonna run to now? Where you gonna run to now? Radio on, coffee black in your cup, don't know where you're going, only know you can't stop. Where you gonna run to now? Where you gonna run to now? When you run out of road, run out of reasons, run out of luck and lies to believe in, where you gonna run to? Running so fast, the past fall behind you, running so fast, the future can't find you. Where you gonna run to now? She's probably waking up, reaching out to hold you, offering the love, fading in your rear view. Where you gonna run to now? Where you gonna run to now? Tomorrow coming fast over the horizon, Jesus on the dash, devil riding shotgun. Where you gonna run to now? Where you gonna run to now? When you run out of road, run out of reasons, run out of luck and lies to believe in, where you gonna run to? Running so fast, the past fall behind you, running so fast, the future can't find you. Where you gonna run to now? You're running on empty. You can't get you free, or you won't get where you wanna go till you try standing still. When you run out of road, run out of reasons, run out of luck and lies to believe in, where you gonna run to? Running so fast, the past fall behind you, running so fast, the
Hey, welcome back to Voices for Change 2.0. I'm Joe. She's Rebecca. And on the line, all the way from across the pond in the wonderful United Kingdom of the lovely city of Manchester that we will someday get to hopefully visit.
Yeah.
That's our dream, is to get over there. We're talking with, excuse me, Cam Apaya. Hi, Cam.
Hello. Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
Everything going as planned? We
I
haven't
think
thrown
so.
we haven't thrown you too many curveballs, have we?
No, not yet. I'm surprised. I thought I'd get tongue-tied a little bit more.
No, we'll find ways to tongue tie you. Don't worry. We'll get you.
We'll just work on
You got
that.
any good tongue twisters?
Let me get back to you on that one. Yeah, that tongue twisters aren't my forte.
All right, so let's jump right back in here and get to some more of our questions. You talked about this a little bit, but I wondered if you might be able to elaborate on what made you decide to come out and tell your story.
It was just, I mean, like trying to think of the best way to succinctly say this without rambling in.
I think we've tongue-tied you.
As I said before, it was mostly partly stubbornness and partly because I just can't abide people telling me I can't do something. So I'd say it was mostly stubbornness, actually. Yeah, I didn't like it. I've always been one of those people that when someone says to me, you can't do that, I'll be like, yes, I can. Or, in school where they'd be like, you can't do that, it's against the rules. I'll be like, watch me.
So you were one of those people that... I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go on.
I was just going to say you were one of those people that they could use negative reinforcement on you and you would prove them wrong.
They could try.
Yeah.
They could definitely try. I was one of those kids that were like, don't go down that street. And I'm like, but I'm exploring.
Yeah. Yeah,
but
for
yeah,
me, it was what?
I was going to say, it was mostly the stubbornness of being told I can't do something, but it was also the kind of all the negative stuff that I was seeing online and all the sort of negative comments I was seeing in forums and things like that. I was just really shocked by it, and I was really kind of disheartened by it, and I thought, there has to be more. There has to be people out there that live with these mental health disorders, or however you want to put it, and actually live happily and have good lives and, reach their goals and their dreams. They have to be out there somewhere, but where are they? I can't see them. There's one or two.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a couple of years ago as well, so I didn't have I didn't have access to everything that I do now, but I just couldn't find anything, especially in the UK. I couldn't find anything to look at to just go, oh, okay, there's somebody that's telling me it's going to be okay. So I thought, fine, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I have a question that just popped into my mind that I wanted to ask you. If you sort of sit there and think just for a minute, can you sense at any time during your childhood where maybe you were experiencing, say, like anxiety about going to school, or if you were, feeling depressed, something that could have been a sign for your folks to get you treatment?
I think it's complex with me because of the autistic spectrum part. From being 3 years old, my parents knew something wasn't quite right with me. I was quite classically autistic, but actually I was only diagnosed last October with the autism, even though I've kind of known it my whole life. So it's really hard for women to get diagnosed, and they often get misdiagnosed with lots of other things first. But I was assured that I am now not just bipolar, but I am autistic and bipolar as well, or I always have been.
Wow.
So
That's
when I
wild.
was in school, I had a lot of issues. I was never really good at interacting with people. I was never really good at sort of like group play, things like that. I always did the kind of like classic autistic parallel play. I had my little universe, and if you tried to do something in it, you didn't do it right. So I'm still like that, to be fair, to a certain degree. So
I get that.
Thanks,
I think
honey.
comorbidity is the word of the issues. It would have been quite hard to work out exactly what was what.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, the part that was obviously not the autism came more towards my teens. I did go through the whole self-harm type behaviors. I did attempt to commit suicide 3 times. I was very, very depressed at one point. The mania kind of came more into itself, or at least I recognized it more again as a teenager, because by that point, I was going out with friends and I was acting out. I was acting very recklessly. I don't think before that I quite understood what was happening to me, but people around me knew something wasn't quite right, and I didn't quite do things like other people, but they just didn't know why or what. A lot of the time, I actually had people telling me, this is the worst phrase ever, and if anyone ever says this to me, I will probably just, well, I won't flip out, but you know what I mean. It's, why can't you just conform? I heard that all through my childhood. Why can't you just conform? Why can't you just be like so-and-so? Why can't you just do what everybody else does? And it was, I didn't know why. I genuinely didn't know why. I remember going into school and thinking to myself, I'm going to be really, really good today. I'm not going to do anything wrong. And then within an hour or so, I'd done multiple things wrong. And I didn't have a clue how that happened. I didn't know why I reacted that way. And it was very confusing time.
Yeah, I understand that. It's getting told, why can't you be like so and so? Why can't you conform? Why can't you do this? Why can't you do that? Why is water wet? Why is the sky blue? It's I don't know.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. And it's frustrating. Because it's like you start thinking to yourself, well, what, am I not good enough? Which just adds a whole other layer onto everything you're already dealing with.
And then you got the guilt coming in again, and
you feel like you're letting your folks and everybody
right.
down.
I tell you, guilt is probably one of my biggest, I don't know, I guess thorns in my side. If you go through,
and you're not even Catholic.
Yeah. But yeah, guilt is a monster. It's something that I don't know if I'll ever be able to get past any type of guilt related to really anything. It's just it's a monster. That's all I'll say about that.
Yeah.
Well, it is. I mean, when you're a teenager as well, one of the worst things that you can think, I mean, your self-worth and your confidence is always sketchy when you're a teenager in general. You're just learning to be yourself, aren't you, at that point? But then when you start getting all these feelings of, I'm not good enough, I shouldn't be alive, everyone will be better off without me here, I just cause trouble for everybody. That's where you kind of get the worst parts of it creeping in, and that's what ultimately led to me going, I don't want to be here anymore, and sort of making that choice, and luckily it didn't quite work out.
Yeah. Well, thank God it didn't work out. Because we're enjoying talking to you. So, conversely, what has been the most rewarding part of your journey?
It's been people messaging me. I didn't realize that, when I first started this, it was just, I'm making a YouTube video. It was my expression, my way of saying, no one out there is telling me I can do this, so I'm going to tell me I can do this. And I used to make videos and play them back to myself. Like videos, sort of motivational videos, I guess is a way to put it. And I used to play them back to myself when I was feeling really down. And I thought, well, I'm going to do something similar, and I want to address all these things that people are asking me about bipolar, because it was as if nobody had a clue what it was, what it meant, or anything about it. They just went, "Oh, you must be crazy." Simple as. And it was all those people then messaging me back, and the comments that I was getting, and I've got a couple of thousand people following me across all the different social medias now, and it's like, wow, I'm not the only person that feels like this, and other people are actually benefiting from the things that I'm putting out. I mean, that one person that sent me a really long message, and it was something along the lines of, I watched your video and I used your videos to explain to my family what's going on. I finally got my diagnosis. I'm on medication and I'm feeling a lot better, and I wouldn't have been able to do that without watching your videos. And I was just like, wow, I was absolutely blown away by that. I mean, it still doesn't feel real to me.
That's really cool.
Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good feeling.
Yeah, that's what we're all doing this for, not necessarily the accolades, I shouldn't say that, but with what we're doing it for is to reach people. And when you when somebody comes to you and says, oh, I can go along with everything you just said here, then that would definitely be the rewarding aspect of it, is that now you've been able to help somebody with something that you might not even think that you could ever help with.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing about like we talk about it all the time, the mental health community on Twitter, is you've got everybody in the same boat, rowing in the same direction, and we're all there to hold each other up, and when we've got a new member of the community, letting them see, hey, you know what, you're not alone. We've gone through this, we've gone through that, we understand what you're going through, or having them come to us all and say, hey, I've been through this too. Thank you for putting this out there. Or, even asking advice. Hey, I'm going through this. What did you do?
Yeah, if it weren't for Twitter and the mental health community on Twitter, I don't know that we would still have a show.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, I have to admit, I'm really terrible with Twitter. Like, I do a lot of stuff on Facebook. I've got an Ask Me I'm Bipolar community group page on Facebook, and I like to do little exercises with people on there, and we do things like, on one day of the week we'll say, okay, tell me 3 things that went really well for you this week. Tell me 3 positive things that you've done this week, or tell me 3 positive attributes that you've got. And I did it that way, and I constructed it that way to have that kind of format, because I just want to really hit home this kind of like positivity, neuroplasticity is what it is scientifically, but kind of when you're in a really bad place, you don't naturally think of all the good stuff. But if you can look into a forum and that forum is constantly reinforcing the good things about you, it's going to help somehow. And the amount of people that engage with that is actually, like I said, it's phenomenal. It's blown my mind completely. I really didn't think so many people would end up engaging with the content that I was putting out. And the community that I've got on Facebook, I absolutely love it. They're brilliant people. And we just have a chat sometimes. Someone's having a bad week, and people give you little bits of advice here and there. I mean, we try and keep everything on a scientific level, in the sense that I wouldn't allow things like advice on medication without it being from a doctor, that kind of stuff. But just general life tips and things like that.
It's amazing how when you do something on there, be it Twitter, Facebook, you start a group, you start a forum, you start a hashtag, you start all these things, and they suddenly become an entity unto themselves,
they take a life of their own on.
Right, exactly. And before you know it, it's like, well, wow, I created that.
Mm-hmm.
I had a hand in that, and it's so much more and so much bigger than what I had ever envisioned it would be. I'm just trying to do this little thing, and now, bam, I've got this.
And it's just celebrating the little things as well. So like, you can do. I've done a little post a few times, just been like, tell me 3 things that you've done that have been really positive this week. Mine has been getting out of bed. Like something really simple like that. And the amount of people that will then come in and go, oh, well, I've had a really bad week, but because of this. And you get to really know these people. And even though there's so many people out there and I can't know them all personally, I'd love to, but it's impossible. Suddenly, I don't, you lose that isolation, you lose that feeling of being alone. And the amount of times people have posted something and then you've got like, 40, 50 people replying to it. It's like, you know what? There's all these people are here to support you. You're not on your own. It doesn't matter if you're isolated from everyone location-wise. Everybody is here to help you through this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the great thing about it.
It's an awesome feeling.
And the best part about it is that it wasn't always like that, but we all somehow got together and worked at making it a more safe and, drama-free environment, I think.
I love that you said drama-free.
Just by getting rid
again
of
with the stubbornness that I created the community group on Facebook was because I got so irritated with other groups and drama. I just again, this is my personal opinion. I'm not saying that it should be this way, but I personally believe that if you're an admin of a group, you have a responsibility to maintain the integrity and the level of sort of talking in that group. And I think if people are posting extremely dramatic or distressing posts, you have to moderate that in a certain way. I'm not saying take away freedom of speech, but if it's becoming dramatic or hostile or anything like that, obviously you have to get in, you have to do something about it. So I created a set of community. If you then back it up. If you're going to say something, we'll have no isms in here, no racisms, no homophobia, that kind of stuff. You'll get told once to apologize. After that, that's your own choice. And
Yeah.
I just thought, I've never had a problem with it in that group. I've never had anybody say anything out of order because everybody just really tries to help everyone. And I think sometimes maybe groups get too big. I'm not sure why it happens, but the drama in other groups, my days.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know.
So how do you feel about how far we as a community have gone with the stigma surrounding mental illness?
I think it's amazing. I mean, from when I first was diagnosed to now, and I mean, that's only 4 years, the amount of things that have come up, the amount of, even social media itself, the whole movement online, the hashtags like the one you've got, it's just fantastic. And it's bringing so much awareness to things, to all the issues that we have. And I can only see it getting better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing. That's the same thing that we're seeing is that, we're able to have a conversation now in the light of day without any
fear of repercussions.
Right. And no whispers and hushed tones, and you can say it proudly, and if people have a problem with accepting it, that's no longer your problem, it's their problem, it's their hang up, and that's how it should have always been. But now that we can acknowledge that it's a fault with them and not you,
right?
That you can proudly stand there and say, hey, I've got bipolar disorder, or I suffer from DID, or I suffer from this, or I am being treated for that. It's empowering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
well, that's exactly what we're trying to do. I think all of us that kind of put out this kind of content, we're just there to say, do you know what? It's going to be fine. And we can, we will show you that it's possible to achieve these things, to write a book, to have a podcast, to whatever it is that you want to do. For me, I had to defer uni about 3 times before I managed to get through my undergraduate degree, but I got there. And it was hard. And it was, it was a real struggle to get through the first 2 to 3 years that I was doing that was so hard. But guess what? I did it, and now I'm doing a master's, and I've done a PGCE in between because it can be done. And it doesn't matter how much effort it takes and how long it takes you to do these things. They are possible. And I think the more we talk about it and the more we sort of normalize just having open conversations, then other people can jump in and just go, oh, okay, well, that person has, bipolar disorder, that person has whatever, borderline personality disorder. Doesn't matter. They're still a human. They still have values. They still have wants and needs. They're still valid.
Right.
Yeah. That's what I said a long time ago when Beck and I got together.
Mm-hmm.
We had that discussion a few months back on a podcast a friend of ours does, Matt Pappas, and I said it then. It stands true today, and it will stand true until the day both of us die. Is that I didn't see her illness, I saw her. And
that's
a wonderful person. Thank you. And she's beautiful. And I'm a lucky guy, and I tell her that, and she tells me that I'm an idiot, but I still hold true that I'm a lucky guy, and I wouldn't trade her for anything at all.
Well, thank you, sweetheart. I appreciate that.
Sure.
So,
Aww.
Cam, can you tell us?
I'm still sad and lonely, remember?
I'm sorry. Sorry, not trying to throw it in your face. Yeah.
We're getting down to the wire here, so we need to ask you what is actually up next for you? What are your plans?
I've got a lot more videos that I want to put out. I'm concentrating a little bit more on the autistic side of things and running the Ask Me I'm Autistic YouTube videos at the moment, so I'm recording all of them. I'm going to amalgamate everything into Ask Me Mental Health as a brand, I guess, and just see what happens. It was never, it's not a business plan. I'm not trying to make money off it. I just want to help people, and if one little thing I can do helps people, great, I'll keep doing it.
Yeah. That sounds really good.
That's solid, man. That's what being a member of the human race is about, is just being out there and trying to help everybody. We're all in this together, and nobody gets out alive. So we got to try and make the best of it for each other while we're still at it.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. If we
But
could just see each other without labels, it would be great. You know, it doesn't matter
Yeah.
if you're male, female, gay, straight, Catholic, Muslim, whatever. You're a human. We're all humans, mental health or not. Just treat people nicely.
Exactly. Exactly.
well, on that note, I guess that's about it for us for today.
Well, no, it's not quite it yet.
Not quite it yet.
Yeah, Kim, where can people find you on social media
Oh,
if they
thank
want
you,
to
honey.
reach out and
Well,
track you down
at the moment,
and say what gives?
At the moment, I've got 2 Twitter handles, which is Ask Me I'm Bipolar and Ask Me MH1. It will be transferring onto the Ask Me MH stuff because that's going to be the predominant website coming up once it's been built. On Facebook, it's still under Ask Me I'm Bipolar, but if you search anything, basically either search my name because it's so unique, there's only one of me, or just search Ask Me I'm Bipolar, all one word, or Ask Me MH, and you'll pretty much find me, to be fair.
Cool. Okay. Nothing else like Instagram or any of those other.
Oh yeah, I do actually have Instagram. I always forget about that one. I've got Instagram, which is Ask Me MH1, I think. Now you're asking me. Gosh. To be fair, I don't really use Instagram for a lot of things other than posting pictures of my friend's dog at the moment. But but yeah,
okay,
Ask Me MH1 is my Instagram, and also I've got my email address obviously, which is hello@askmemh.com.
That's okay. My cats have an Instagram page.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So you're in good company. So, all right, I have to ask this because it's been in the back of my mind since the show started. Please say the following word. I'm going to spell it for you. HERB.
Herb.
Because there's an H in it.
Yes.
Are you familiar with Eddie Izzard?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
He's like a god to us.
Oh, he's brilliant. He's hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love him so much. And so a lot, it's funny, as a kid, I didn't really focus that much on history and stuff like that. I always thought it was really boring. I didn't care. I'd, slide by with C's or whatever. But you're watching him, and he's talking about, like, real things that actually happened. Like, Hitler was actually a vegetarian and all these different kinds of things. And it's like you're learning while you're laughing your head off.
Yeah.
And I have
brilliant
so much
combination.
yeah, I have so much respect for somebody who can put a show together like that, and then to come out in heels.
Yeah. Yeah, to do it all in heels, no less.
I know he wears them better than me.
And it's funny because he was actually one of the catalysts for bringing Beck and I together early on.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I had just watched. He had a comedy special called Dress to Kill, and HBO back in the late '90s was playing it, and I'd just seen it, and it was brilliant. It was so funny. So one of the first times that Beck and I are hanging out together, she goes, "Hey, have you ever heard of this guy?" And she pops in a videotape, and it's Dress to Kill. And we sat there watching it and laughing our fool heads off, and that was one of the things that kind of, really helped us connect.
And that's where the love story began.
Yep, that and wrestling.
Yeah.
Oh, don't get me. I love wrestling.
Oh, good. I thought I was going to have to shut him up on that one because a lot of people don't.
I absolutely love wrestling. I've loved wrestling my entire life. I was convinced I was going to marry Jeff Hardy, and then he married someone else.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, well, he does that.
Yeah, I love Jeff Hardy, too. He's great.
Yeah, she's got her people. And
my favorite, though, is Triple H.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I love that guy.
Like, the way he transitions from being the complete heel to being amazing and then back to being a complete heel again. He's really good, like, on an acting level as well. Yeah, I'll tell you something that most people don't know, actually. When I was 16, 17, I used to train in sort of the local gym, and we used to do that kind of wrestling. So I did it for about 3 or 4 years, and I did it up like a few times around the UK in a few different places. And I stopped doing it in the end because I left the country for a while. But I did have the dream at one point that I was going to be.
That's awesome.
Wow, that is so cool.
Yeah, I had that dream back when I was, in like 5th, 6th grade, and then had no idea how to actually start doing it, so then I gave up on that dream pretty quick.
Oh, I had it all planned out. My name was Switch. My finisher was called a Switchblade, and my theme tune was Rob Zombie's "Living Dead Girl."
Nice. Not bad. That's pretty cool. I hadn't thought it out that far. Of course, then again, I'm
showing how much geek I am now.
Yeah.
Your nickname could have been Harlot O'Scara. Remember that episode of Family Guy?
No, I don't.
Yeah, Brian was trying to give Stewie a roller derby nickname, and he named him Harlot O'Scara.
Good Lord. Now you know our wheelhouse.
Yeah, really.
Star Wars, wrestling, Eddie Izzard, and Family Guy.
Well, if the Game of Thrones finale writing's anything to go by, I'm worried about the next Star Wars.
Actually, I think the next Star Wars looks okay because J.J. Abrams took it back over. Have you seen the trailer yet?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you got to check out the new trailer.
I loved, the original 3 Star Wars, and I was never going to see any of the other ones ever. And being married to Joe, I don't really get that option. I have to watch them all constantly.
Yeah, she does.
So,
well, it was recently May the 4th. I hope you celebrated it in style.
Oh yeah, yeah, we did. It was. Yeah, you got to look out for Revenge of the 5th. So. Yeah.
Anyway, I'll tell you, I wasn't thrilled with a lot of the ones that I saw, but the commercial, the trailer for this new one that's coming out, even though it makes me cry because Princess Leia's in it, so I immediately start crying my eyes out because Carrie Fisher has left us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's so sad.
But yeah, it actually looks pretty good. If you get a chance, go on YouTube or IMDb and check it out.
I'll be doing that straight after this show.
Yeah, because I think JJ's trying to redeem it, and you got to stick all the way around to the end because there's a particular laugh that you got to hear that you're gonna go whoa. So
all right, we've got it.
Look out, wait.
We're getting the hook. We're getting the hook. He's trying to.
Going into hour 2, you guys, we will be talking with. You want to take this part over? Who are we talking to?
Mary and Elin, and they are authors and advocates.
Yes.
So that's what we need to know.
So stay tuned, and we'll catch you guys on the other side of Into the Unknown by Preston Wiggins. And Cam, stay on the line for a minute so we can say bye, and we'll catch you guys after this.
Don't you ever wonder
afternoon. Welcome to Voices for Change 2.0. We're having a debate about the time around here.
Yeah.
We're really glad.
we
We're really glad that you're with us this morning.
Yeah,
This afternoon.
this afternoon. Thanks for sticking around for hour 2 of the show. We are happy that you guys are sticking with us here through Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yes, very important. And also, I believe Mental Health Awareness Week was wrapping up in...
Wrapped up last week.
Was it last week?
Yeah, it was last week.
Okay, well...
So that's...
Yeah, so that was big steps to have... It was kind of crazy having them both go at the same time.
Yeah.
The hashtags were just blowing the place up.
Crazy. I know.
Wish I could get mine to do that.
Well, yours today was trending at 900.
No, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's nothing.
Still not good enough.
It's not shabby. I mean that's really respectable. 900 people tweeting that out today.
Yeah. Yes, dear. Thank you, dear.
You're welcome, darling. You're so cute.
Yeah.
How'd I get so lucky?
I don't know.
I mean,
I really don't. So.
Okay.
We haven't been up to too much. We don't have too many interesting things to cover when we usually do a little bit of banter before we start interviews, and we're just kind of
we're
trying
on
to
our
keep
own,
our heads on straight.
Yeah, we're on our own haze, our own fog. We've had a lot going on in the household here, off the air, and it's just trying to stay on top of everything has been
exhausting.
Okay, we'll go with exhausting.
Plus, we got sick, so
yeah.
now we're all better mostly. And
speak for yourself.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Sorry about that. Sorry.
But the important thing for us today is to talk about our guests that are coming up.
Yes.
I discovered Mary and Elin on Twitter, and we've. So I don't think we've been talking quite a year yet, but it's there, mostly through emails because we were trying to get a good date scheduled for them to come on the show. They've done some really, really important work. Everything that they put into what they've done has been just, I don't know, for lack of a better word, important. It's something that needed to be done. And I really think that they deserve a lot of credit for compiling all of this information that people really need to hear and putting it into a book and putting it out there. And, I wish I had the strength and the courage to go around talking to all these different people, and getting all this information. You never know what you're going to hear. So I'm really honored to have them both on the show with us today, and I hope that you are honored as well, my dear. I
am very honored. I'm intrigued to hear about what all they've done, and kind of delve into it, and just see what's what.
Absolutely. So why don't we introduce our guests for this afternoon? That's going to be my new word.
This afternoon.
This afternoon.
Oh, you are a train wreck.
Please welcome Mary and Elin, the authors of Behind the Wall.
Good afternoon.
Hi. Good morning
great to
and
be here.
Good afternoon.
It's our pleasure to have you guys on the show. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to speak to us and tell us about your book and tell us about all the work that you've done and, just overall being groovy.
First of all, we're sisters and we live on opposite coasts.
Wow.
And so getting this book together took a lot of Skype, and thank goodness for technology and travel. So what happened is, I'm Elin, by the way.
Hi, Elin.
And, hi. So my son, who was not quite an adult, he was in college, he was a young adult, was diagnosed with a mental illness, bipolar disorder. And, I, as the parent, first of all, I'm a therapist, so of course I was able to, counsel lots of people with mental illnesses and their families. But then I said to my sister Mary, this is so different. Living with a person who struggles every day is so different than seeing them once a week in my office and helping them with that. And Mary's smart, right, Mary?
Right.
Mary said, why don't we go around the country and talk to other parents and see what they're feeling and what they're thinking, and let's just see what's going on. And that all sounds so easy. And then 4 years later, we have collected stories from people, from parents from all around the country. We've looked at parents who are divorced or together, same-sex couples, some religious, some not, and all situations, all socioeconomic situations. And what we found is that no matter what their circumstance, no matter what level of treatment they received, they all were saying some of the same things. And the top thing that parents expressed is grief, that they were now grieving the loss of what their child was. The other thing is chaos, the chaos of getting a proper diagnosis, and also the chaos of, before they were diagnosed, a lot of the kids self-medicated, and so now they've gotten into all kinds of substance abuse, which made everything sort of crazy and chaotic. And then no diagnosis. Lots of doctors would say, "Oh, we can't treat them because, they're using marijuana, and we can't diagnose them." And it was just the chaos is unbelievable. And the other thing is the parents felt guilty, like they've done something wrong. So many other things, like the coping mechanisms were often very unhealthy. I know in my own case, I just like curled up into a ball a lot of the time, and that's not healthy. Obviously, that I had to get motivated to help figure out what to do for my son to help him to get into recovery.
So definitely, excuse me, I'm choking up a little bit. I definitely can relate to you on that level, because I saw my parents go through the same thing when I was diagnosed, and it's a very, very scary situation for everybody involved. And just when you think you've got a leg up, you take 10 steps backwards. When you're treating this. So yeah, I definitely I'm with you on that level.
And a lot of therapists would say, well, we can't diagnose your child, he or she is under 18, and so it's okay I understand them not giving a label or diagnosis, but then they just need to treat what the symptoms are and help the child get some relief. So there were all kinds of stories like that. Some parents also, when the child first became psychotic, let's say, the parent would go into denial. And so many of the parents said, once I just got into reality and believing that this was truly a mental illness, then his whole world or her whole world got better. And one of the way to recovery, and there is recovery in mental illness, is people need advocates. They need advocates who will stay with them and hold on to hope, and also get educated about what mental illness is. It's not about feeling guilty or pity or any of that. It's about getting early evidence-based intervention for the child, and about sticking with him no matter what, or her. I always say him because I have a son. And just rallying behind him and holding on to hope until that person can take on the hope and move forward on his or her own volition. Because I know in the case with my son, he did not have any hope for recovery, but I kept holding on to hope because I said, you're going to get into recovery, and this is how we're going to do it. And you just have to do that. If you can't, sometimes the parents are not good advocates, so the young adult has to find some other people who can help.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So that kind of sums up. That actually kind of sums up our first question, which was, where does your mental health journey begin? For you, Elin. But what about for you, Mary? What was your coming into all of this? Were you dealing with anything, or was it just simply you were trying to assist your sister? Was it a support role?
Well, yeah. I'm glad you asked this because I know that a lot of your guests are dealing with their own mental health journey, and for me, mostly it was about, I came to realize what Ellen's family was going through. And again, she mentioned, and first of all, I want to thank you for that lovely introduction, which was really lovely. But I came to it because at the time when Elin was going through all this, she was on, like we mentioned, she's on one coast and I was on the other. And I was in the throes of raising little kids, tiny kids. And she was in the throes of dealing with this emerging mental health issue and really coming to grips with what it exactly was. And I found that she would tell me things about that was going on in her life with her family, and when it comes to your children, you always feel the pain that they're feeling, and how you respond to it depends on, I think, the resources that you have, and whether those are emotional resources or circumstantial resources. And not all parents have the benefit of having another, supportive family around them to support them. And in Ellen's case, she kept saying things that what her son was going through, and I kind of didn't really understand it until finally I did. And then I realized, oh my goodness, she was dealing with trying to help her son, and I was not being very supportive. So I felt like, oh my gosh, how many other parents are out there that are struggling and not knowing that there is support out there for them to help their loved one, their child, and they can't articulate what they need because A, they don't know what they need, or their siblings or other family members don't believe that it can really be going on. So that's where I came to it. And as a parent, I was a new parent, I was struggling with, understanding how parents can support their kids in any way. And I believed, and as a result of working on this book, I believe that it helped me to be a more compassionate parent in general in order to support whatever journey my kids are going through. And it really has borne out to be true. So anyway, that's kind of a roundabout way to say how I came into it. But of course I wanted to work on a project with Elin. We're very close. We're a very close family. And I adore my nieces and nephews, all of them, and anything I could do to support them, I was all about.
That's very cool.
Yeah, definitely.
And bless you for wanting to help your sister out, and bless you, Elin, for just wanting to dive into this to begin with. And it really is too a struggle, when you're a caretaker, because it's not always a parent. Sometimes it's a spouse. Sometimes it's a aunt or uncle. There's always somebody there. And, it took me a while to learn how to be there for Beck. The story, and we've told this a few times now, is when she and I first met, she was going, just in the throes of bipolar disorder and a few other different things.
Self-harm.
And at the time, I didn't understand it, and I wasn't mature enough to try to understand it, so I stepped away, which left her all sorts of confused. But I realized that there was, more to her than what she was going through, so I came back to her, and we gave it a shot, and I fell madly in love with her, and
Yeah.
and really sought to understand what she was going through and help advocate for her, because the first couple times we went to her doctor's appointments were really eye-opening for me. I had gone to doctor's appointments all my life and seen my doc for this, that, and the other, but I had never been to dealing with like a psychiatrist or anything like that. And seeing how she was being treated by this particular individual was a really big eye opener for me, And so I was able to start backing up what she was telling him, so that he understood.
Yeah, he would sit there and just talk to Joe. He would pretend that I wasn't even.
Yeah.
He just told Joe
that's
everything
weird.
I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd be looking at him thinking, why are you telling me this? Tell her this. She's the patient. I'm not her boss or anything. I'm her husband, for crying out loud. Eventually we found a great doctor that is not this guy.
Yeah. Well, sadly, we have some stories like that as well from all the parents that we interviewed, as well as I do personally dealing with my son. It's unbelievable out there. It's just unbelievable. But when you find the right, mental health professionals, and you get informed as the person who's the advocate, then everyone can work together as a team, and it really does take a team of support. My husband, luckily, is on my team as our son's father, and he has certain strengths that I don't have, and so we put our team together, and that's what it takes. That's what it takes.
I have to tell you, I have to tell you about a very cool thing that Elin did and her husband, and also that in our book, other parents talk about ways to rally the other family members and close friends to understand how they can best help not just the person living with the mental illness, but also like create sort of this mob scene of support, and Elin and her husband did this very cool thing, and it kind of woke me up as a family member, and that was that when their son was finally, I guess, came to a point where he was diagnosed and there was something tangible to explain, they actually would send out regular emails to all the family members and explain it in a very clean and non-judgmental way. Here's what is happening, and here's what you can do. And when I first read those emails, I was in shock because I wasn't aware of what was going on. It was all new to me. But because the way they articulated that this is what's happening, and it was in a non-judgmental way, and it was very clear about how we could help, it really changed the dynamic of what was going on in our family in terms of like, okay, we're behind you and whatever you need, and everybody rallied around her son, and we're very open about that he has an illness, and it is an illness, and he's managing it, and it has helped. I believe that it has helped everybody, including him, move forward and stay in recovery. And it's what and other parents have done this that we interviewed, and it's just a great way for a family to understand everything without judgment,
Well, so many families become very isolated, and I see how that happens because as soon as people in my town figured out what was happening with our son, they started to pull away. And now I see how families become so isolated. So then you need to reach out to people who are your real friends and your family, people who will really support you. And that's absolutely one theme that we found. And also I teach a NAMI course, National Alliance on Mental Illness course. It's called Family to Family, and it's a 12-week course. And so many of the people say, yeah, we're really isolated right now because we just don't feel like we can talk about it, and we can't reach out to friends, or friends have left us.
Right.
Friends don't want to be around
Yep.
us anymore. And it's just so sad. It's so sad to me.
That happened to me quite a bit. Back when I did attempt suicide back in 2013, you said you read the book, so you know the story. Yeah. But that people were just dropping like flies. They're and if they didn't drop right away,
right.
Go ahead.
Really scared, don't know what to say, don't want to be around you. I don't know what it is exactly. It's hard for me. That part is really hard for me.
Then there's the ones that will consider you a coward.
Yeah, there's that too.
You know, there's a whole other flip side to it. You know.
Well, I think a lot of it's fear of the unknown. You know, and you know, people are afraid of what they don't understand, and you know, you get the ones that truly care about you that will seek out understanding and still be there, and then you get the other ones that leave, and the other ones that leave were never really there for you to begin with. So you know, it sucks and you feel a loss because those people are no longer there, but by the same token, it's almost like the trash took itself out.
Yeah.
Well, what's a really point. A lot of parents that we interviewed also mentioned that they were judged by other parents because maybe their child was acting out in public, you know, as a result of their mental health issues. Their behaviors were a little bit not correct or different, and so a lot of parents talked about that, how that people judged them, and maybe people said that they were bad parents or they weren't good disciplinarians, when the truth is that they were doing everything right, and that it's you know there's all different kind of scenarios, but it was really unfair to these poor parents who are trying to support their loved one, to do the best they can for them, and then they're getting judged and isolated for this. It's very challenging for families, for sure.
Yeah. And to pick up on Joe made a point a little earlier about misinformation, and part of our mission with this book and the talks that we do, we're often talking to mental health professionals and colleges, and we love to talk to young people especially, but we want to give them the facts because there's so many myths out there, which that creates the stigma, which also creates the isolation. So if we can educate, which you're doing on this podcast, which is great, and any way we can, and just spread the facts, people, you know, especially kids, let's say, who are starting to feel weird and feel like, oh, they're hearing things, or they're feeling weird, or their moods are changing, they won't be afraid to talk about it, and they can get early treatment.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to, it's a really good spot for us to take our first break.
Yep.
So that's what we're going to do. We're going to revisit that more on the other side of the break. In the meantime, you guys will be listening to You Belong by Brandon James. See you on the other side of this. Hey, welcome back to Voices for Change 2.0. I'm Joe. She's Rebecca. And on the line, we have Mary and Elin, and they are authors and advocates, and they wrote a great book. And moms. That's a very important thing. It's number one important thing. And they wrote a great book called Behind the Wall. And happy belated Mother's Day, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, you want to jump into the questions?
So we're going to jump back into our questions here.
Okay.
Did you actually start off with the goal of writing a book when you started traveling?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we had an ambitious goal. Yes.
We also, in tandem with the writing of the book, we actually, as we were working on the book, we realized that we had so much valuable advice from these other parents that we actually started a blog at the same time. So as we were doing the work. So yes, we do have a blog, which is, we haven't worked on it in a while, honestly, because both of us have been on other projects, but it is still has a lot of archived posts that I think are still really pertinent and timely.
That's cool, and the nice thing about that is I'm sure you guys were able to take some of the information that you couldn't necessarily fit into the book and put it up on the blog too, which is kind of a beneficial thing. People are trying to track down information. It's excuse me, it's good to give them as much resource as you can. Yeah,
and also we only included 7 stories in our book, but we obviously interviewed many, 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 many more parents, and we couldn't really contain all those stories, and so that's a lot of the interviews that we used for those blog posts. So that's how we did it. And these parents that we talked to were amazing. I mean, they are amazing people.
Mary, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, often when we felt like we just couldn't do this, we would think about these parents because they were our heroes, and that's what really kept us going.
It helps to have that kind of inspiration too, because it gets tough. You work on a project, be it writing a book or doing a podcast or what have you, and there are times where you lose, focus, or you lose your push, or you're like, man, can I really do this? And you have self-doubt, and it because we went through it with Beck's book, especially when we did the last edition of it. I handled the editing on that and getting the formatting and everything done, and it was tough. It was an exhausting undertaking. What was the most rewarding process for you guys of writing and publishing this book?
For me, this is Elin. For me, we actually, I'll speak for myself. I cried when we were interviewing people, and it was just, I think what was most amazing is the people, how the parents just kept fighting and fighting for their children and finding the best way to help them. And I think, as I said in the beginning, it became thematic. So the same themes kept emerging no matter what the circumstances of these families were. So that was pretty surprising and enlightening for me.
What about you, Mary?
I have to say that the process changed my life forever. I mean, it was a profound experience for me because I learned on so many levels. Well, I learned so much, and it really, I guess there's a million things that I got out of it. I certainly got more out of it than I put into it. But one of the things that I'm so grateful for, in addition to, it's really fun working with my sister because she and I talk in half sentences when we're working on something because we work so similarly, but we're very different in terms of our intellectual disciplines. So it was great. We brought different things to the project. But now I don't think, like, the little things don't bother me as much anymore, and I just felt like I became kind of a different person. Like, I don't care about smaller inconveniences, and it made me see the world in a better, healthier way and more grateful. I'm much more grateful now, and I think that was truly a gift, and I'm grateful and more compassionate towards more people and understanding that everybody has a journey. And I just love that because it's given me an opportunity to get to know really interesting people and about their journey, and I think that was truly a gift.
I actually we don't have this written down as a question, babe, but it's something that's kind of popped up during the course of the conversation.
Speak up a little, honey.
Okay. And can you guys hear me okay, by the way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, just want to make sure. And this is a toss-up, so whoever wants to answer can answer. But how did you guys find the parents and the families that you talked to during the course of doing all your research?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Because
Thank you.
The HIPAA laws, right? That's a good question.
Right.
So, because of I am a mental health professional, so I know people who work in various parts of the country in mental health facilities. So I would, put the message out. This is what we're doing. We're going to do this project. Here's what our goals are. If you know any parents who can come forward, give them this information. So we had to wait for them to come forward. Now, a lot of them backed out. A lot of fathers especially backed out. One of them we were able to talk to one father out of all of the people we interviewed, and he was great. He was a great interviewee. And so that's how we did it. They had to come to us, and we had them sign an anonymous agreement that our lawyer wrote up, a confidentiality agreement. We changed all their names and the locations so that nobody could identify them. So that was what we did.
Cool. That's very cool.
Yeah, it's definitely sounds like a really good way to do it. My head was kind of spinning when I was sort of thinking about how I would possibly find all these people to ask all these questions of, but it's good. You guys had a good way about it.
Yeah.
Also, as soon as you start talking about the project you're working on, people come up they approach you, and then after we had done a number of interviews, people came up to us, and still today, Ellen and I will be out speaking at a speaking engagement, and people approach us and say, we want to talk to you, and we're like, okay, great.
Yeah. There was a time when I was traveling, and I was at a gym, and I sat down at my bike to do spin class, and someone next to me said, "Why are you a visitor? Are you new here?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm here to do this project." And she said, "Oh, I should talk to you," and that ended up being one of our interviewees.
Oh,
so
that's cool.
It was very interesting how it all happened.
Wow.
So, Ellen, a question for you. We were talking a little bit earlier about recovery, and I'm wondering, what advice do you have for someone who's been diagnosed and may feel that there isn't recovery in sight for them?
Well, I like this topic because there is recovery. First of all, we have to say, we use the word recovery when actually we should be talking about managing the symptoms. Everyone who has a mental illness can learn how to manage the symptoms if they get the right treatment and hopefully early and evidence-based treatment. So I think the first thing that people need, they need good advocates, a good team, as we talked about earlier. And the team needs to get good information so that then they can get the best treatment that's possible given their circumstances. And that may or may not include medications, that may or may not include therapy. Everybody's different. Everyone has a different journey, and different things work for different people. But everyone can somehow figure out how to manage the symptoms, like diabetes. You know, can it be cured? No, but they can manage the symptoms. Sometimes, you know, it's exercise, good nutrition, good sleep, medication, and therapy, and sometimes it's some other formula, but in every case, there's an advocate or two or three advocates. So often when our son was hospitalized, we noticed that there were young adults in the hospital and no one was visiting them. No one was there. It's just like they would drop off their young adult and no one would go see them. And no one
forget about them.
Yeah, it was amazing. So, yeah, and Mary, you may have, I don't know what you want to add in there.
Well, I think another, we were at a speaking engagement where somebody asked us, they said, my daughter was released from the hospital, and then they said they were in the hospital for like 2 weeks after a major event. And the person said, and we just thought that the person was better. My daughter, I don't remember if it was a son or daughter, my daughter would be better and that she'd get better, but she didn't get better. and nobody told them that it can be a long process, and it requires patience, and it requires, like Ellen said, finding the right evidence-based treatment that fits that person, you know. And one of the parents, the couples that we interviewed, talked about they had one daughter who had severe depression, and they were lucky that they expressed gratefulness because they have resources that were able to get her good treatment, and they allowed her to lay on the couch basically for a year, and they just let her do whatever she needed to do to get well. And then she got well, and she ended up getting a job, and, you know, she moved through, and her recovery looked different than maybe somebody else's recovery, but her recovery was just being able to get up every day and do, like, small things around the house until eventually she was able to move forward and get a job. And I think one of those things that Ellen and I really tried to do in our talks with other parents is to understand that, and this is advice from another parent, that they said, look at improvement over the course of not just a week or 2 weeks, but like a year. And look at how much growth, look how much you've accomplished in a year compared to where you were. And go focus on that aspect rather than focus on you should be with your other peers getting a college degree. No, that's not your place. Where you need to focus on where your own recovery is. And that was really helpful to a lot of parents that we've been talking to.
That reminds me of an expression I've heard lately that I really like, and it's don't let perfect be the enemy of good.
Yes.
So, you know, and that really, really, sometimes when I'm getting frustrated about something, that will run through my head, and I'll figure, hey, you know, everything's all right now. Everything's good. You know, it may not be perfect, but, you know, we're okay.
Yeah.
So it's something that's really hard to remember, but I think it's important.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. But we talked to psych nurses, and what they tell us is we're really burning out because all we see is very, very ill people, and we don't understand how they can ever get better. And so we talk about, well, once they're discharged from the hospital, there are many things they can do to reintegrate themselves into the community, but they need to have a lot of support and rest. As Mary said, that one family allowed their child to stay on the couch for a year. And there are lots of resources such as the international club movement. I don't know if you know about that. The
Clubhouse.
Clubhouse movement, yeah. I was trying to think.
No, I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, so it's a place where once you're discharged, you can go to a clubhouse. It's called a clubhouse, and just so that you are not, as a person with mental illness, you're not isolated. And we're talking about more ill patients like with schizophrenia, and so
Right.
they are able to just socialize, maybe do some art, maybe go out and do one day of volunteer until they're ready to go back to school or go back to work or whatever it is that they need to do. Or maybe they're just going to stay at the clubhouse for a few years and just hang out there. And that's fine, but at least they're not isolated, because that is the big enemy in mental illness, is isolation.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
really, I can connect with that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Mary,
We
could
actually-
you possibly?
Go-
I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
Sorry. No, I'm nothing.
Okay. I was just going to say, can you recall one of the most poignant stories from the parents you were speaking with?
Gosh, they were all so important to me. Each one of them, I can't single out any one being more poignant than the other, actually. But I think
Okay.
that
Okay.
the
Fair enough.
stories,
Yeah.
That's like trying to make her pick a child.
Hey,
Exactly.
you had the questions too.
Exactly.
Oh. I know, but I'm not the one that asked it, so I can grill you.
No,
on
it's
it.
Yeah.
but I love the question, because what I can say is that I think the stories that I really, all of the stories that we actually that ended up in the book, are stories from, like Ellen mentioned, that these parents who were doing everything they could to help their child, and that grit that they showed in trying to help their loved one was so profound to me. And that's all that, I mean, I think that's why they got into the book, especially. But, and all of them talk about that when you're helping an individual who's living with a brain disorder, you're helping, it does require support and advocacy. And I loved that, the way that these parents did that, the way they advocated for their child, and they say, I don't always do the right thing, but I'm always working towards doing the right thing for them. And I think that was really amazing to me.
For sure. Oh, we've got, pardon the peanut gallery here. We have a sick cat, and she is letting us know how
That's
she
what
feels
it
about
sounded
it right
like.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's what it is.
Aw.
Baby. Yeah, it's one of the things we've been dealing with the last few weeks, is trying to nurse her back to health. So,
Oh.
hey, she found the treats.
Give her a kiss.
Oh, good.
Oh.
That's
So
another thing
what-
we talked about too, is pets, how important pets are for people,
Oh, yeah.
everyone, not just a person who has an illness, but for anybody, how important pets are for nurturing your own self and self-care. And a lot of people talk about their pets were what gave them solace. So we're on board with the animal thing.
Yeah.
Yes, we are.
Yeah. So self-care is an important topic too.
Yeah, we
know,
talked a lot
it's-
about that.
And it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard
Yeah.
for, at least in my perspective, if I'm practicing self-care, meaning I'm just kind of, sitting up in bed watching a movie or whatever, just trying to relax, I have been conditioned by my folks early on to feel guilty about just sitting around not doing anything. And, God bless them. I'm not mad at them. They were good parents, but they didn't want me just sitting around not doing anything. And so nowadays, if I do find myself doing that, all I can think about is what I should be doing instead of what I am doing.
Yeah.
So it's a slippery slope.
Yeah, and half the time I have to tell her, hey, you're alive, you're breathing. That's all that matters. If stuff doesn't get done today, we'll get to it later. It's cool.
Wow, you're a great advocate.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Yes, he is.
That's just the.
But I think we can all relate to that. Mary and I, as you know, are sisters, and our father was a doer. I don't think anyone ever saw him sit still, and he just was a big production machine. And so, if we ever sat, we felt guilty.
Right.
So yeah, we can relate.
So what is next for both of you?
Well, we have attempted to, and we'll just say it out loud here, Mary, right?
All right.
We've attempted to get sisters and brothers, siblings of people with mental illness, and ask them their perspective on what it's like to grow up with a sibling with mental illness. And we have interviewed several, but we're having trouble recruiting people. I think in the siblings' case, they feel a lot of guilt, they feel anger, they feel responsible for the person. There's so many different feelings, and they feel disloyal for speaking about their sibling. There's just so much going on, and some of them have escaped the whole scene, and so they don't
want
really
to go
know
back.
all the facts. They don't know the facts. So that's been a real struggle to get that project going.
Well, I tell you what, if I would probably fall into one of the category of one of the people you would interview, because I had 4 older brothers and an older sister, and 2 of my brothers are no longer with us now, very prematurely, because of, and we have no contact with my other 2 brothers, and we just barely talk to my sister, and it's been all about drug abuse or alcohol abuse or bipolar disorder. It's all, anything you can think of, it's mixed in there. So it is hard. It's very difficult to come out and start saying all this stuff about your family. You feel like you're betraying somebody, but I understand both sides of it, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
we do too.
Yeah.
You mixed.
No, you go ahead.
So, where is your book available at this time, and do you expect that you might write another one?
Well, yeah, the other one is the project that just doesn't seem to get off the ground about siblings. But this book is Behind the Wall, the true story of mental illness as told by parents, can be found anywhere books are sold. Amazon, it can be found on Amazon. It is also an ebook format as well as paperback.
Yeah, you can actually buy it directly from our web page, from their webpage. It's which is www.behindthestories.com. Whatever's easiest for people, really.
Okay.
Yeah, or you could go to. You could also go to any bookstore and ask for it, and they'll get it for you.
Okay.
Cool.
So how about just so that if anybody wants to reach out to you, what are the best social media links to connect with you?
We have Twitter and Facebook. So the Twitter is Witty, W-I-D-D-I, at Witty, W-I-D-D-I, 123.
Yeah, or you can just type in Behind the Wall and you'll get our logo and it'll pop up, I'm sure.
Yeah. I think if you just go to Behind the Wall, you can get on our website and find the Facebook and find Twitter and also contact us. I think Mary's contact is on there for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and on our website you can contact us through Facebook or on our webpage. I believe our email is on there as well.
And our blog. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, that sounds great.
Well, we're just about round down on our time. Round down. I can't.
Whatever works.
I can just
Whatever
be
works
good.
today. We've had a tough day.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna let you say whatever you want.
Thanks, babe. I appreciate that.
I want to say thank you for all the work you're doing and spreading the word, because the more that we can talk about mental illness, the more the faster we'll end stigma, and that will help the whole planet.
Yeah.
I sure hope so.
I'm not exaggerating. That we are 1 in 5 of us are affected by mental illness all over the planet. So you all are doing good work, and also give your cat a hug.
Yeah.
Oh, Yeah,
Yeah.
she's getting lovin's of all sorts.
If you follow me on Twitter, you'll see many pictures of her, even though she has her own Twitter.
Yeah.
Oh.
She has an Instagram account too.
I was just looking for that. If your cat is being posted now I kind of recall seeing it.
Yep, Princess Haley.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
That's
our
sweet.
baby. So. Well, you guys stay on the line. We are going to get into our last song, which is Into the Unknown by Preston Wiggins.
We'll see you next weekend.
Yeah, everybody, thanks for staying tuned for the whole 2 hours, and we appreciate it, and we'll see you next week.